Well, hello and welcome to the 100K Plus Launch webinar. Your launch coaches for this webinar are President and COO Susie Carter, Global Marketing and Brand Officer Jennifer Kim, and Director of Coaching Sean Smith. Susie Carter isn't your average business coach. When you hire Susie, being average or running an average business instantly drops from your list of options. Susie makes being average really uncomfortable. In a relentless pursuit of her own goals, she comes with a 20-year proven track record, two $10 million companies under her belt, her fair share of wild successes and painful failures, working with entrepreneurs around the world whose companies are grossing between $250,000 to $10 million on strategic growth strategies. The creator of Predictable Success Method, Susie's expertise lies in development of operations, finance, sales accountability, and marketing systems for your businesses, leading to very predictable and substantial revenue, profit growth, and investment opportunities. Carter excels in creating the structure and the team necessary to guide any company through the turbulence of and some uncertainty of dramatic growth. Currently the president and COO of Motivating the Masses, a globally recognized transformation and training company for entrepreneurs and small business owners led by Lisa Nichols. Susie has been instrumental in leading the company in growth of multi-millions. She's authored 9 books as well as co-authored with Living Proof with Lisa Nichols and Bootstraps to Big Time. Susie lives in California where she enjoys being a mother of 2 daughters and absolutely insists on living full out on a daily basis. Also joining us on this webinar is Jennifer Kim, Global Marketing and Brand Officer. She's responsible for the offline and online marketing strategies for Motivating the Masses. With 18 years of experience in product development, product management, brand strategy, copywriting, executive consultations, social media, and affiliate marketing, Jennifer is accountable to extend the Lisa Nichols and Motivating the Masses brand globally. With experience at top companies like Oracle, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Kroll Associates, Sun Microsystems, AgeWave, and Hawaiian Telecom, as well as her own digital strategy and agency, ChemCom Media Group, Jennifer consults and trains corporate executives and business owners to elevate their brands and grow their business using lead generation, digital strategy, and all aspects of advertising, including direct mail, direct TV, print, and radio. As part of the Motivating the Masses core team, her experience and passion for our clients around the world serves business owners to create massive impact and profit through training and workshops, entrepreneur programs, and executive coaching. Her work with business owners and CEOs has created revenue in the multi-millions as their secret sauce for strategy and execution of their brand. And finally joining us tonight is Sean Smith. Sean Smith is a highly sought after international trainer, speaker, and certified master's result coach. He founded his own personal development company over 10 years ago and has sold millions of dollars worth of training programs, landing him in the top 1% of companies in the entire coaching industry. Sean has managed dozens of launches, including a 6-figure campaign, selling a $200 product to a small niche community. He's a wizard when it comes to strategy, structure, and execution of successful and profitable launches. In fact, Lisa Nichols was so impressed with Sean that her company, Motivating the Masses, acquired Sean's business and named him Director of Coaching and Training Worldwide. And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Sean Smith.
Fantastic, Matt. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you do for this company and your amazingness all the way around. Thank you for those wonderful introductions. And I want to welcome everyone to this webinar. We are going to have a lot of fun, and I acknowledge you just for showing up, because that tells me, it tells us that you're the kind of person that wants more in your business. You obviously want more in your life, and we don't take that lightly. So we really acknowledge you for being that kind of person. And let me just tell you a little bit about what we're doing on this webinar. We're going to go for roughly an hour, maybe 75 minutes or so. And the big things that we want to teach tonight are the proven launch blueprint for making $100,000 or more in your launch. We're also going to go over how to attract the right clients in your launch, which is so critical. It's quality over quantity, absolutely. How to set your goals, and even more importantly than setting your goals, how to attain your goals during a launch. We're going to talk about the real cost of a launch. And that word real is all caps because that's the way we do it at Motivating the Masses. We want to be real. We're not going to be talking about fluff. We're not going to be pulling any punches. We're not going to hold anything back. We're going to share real numbers with you, and we're going to share the reality with you because a lot of people don't understand what it actually takes. It's easy to take a look at some kind of launch strategy. You watch somebody else do a launch, or you think you know what it's actually going to be like, and so you set up these expectations where everything goes perfectly, nothing ever crashes, you don't have to spend any money whatsoever, and every dollar that you bring in is total profit, and you get to go play and go buy a new car. And we hear a lot of those stories out there, or we make up our stories based on what we see and based on what we hear, and then we will get completely disappointed if we think that's actually going to happen. So we believe in teaching you the reality so you're prepared, because if you're prepared for anything and everything that could possibly go right and possibly go, I won't say wrong, but be challenging, then you're going to be in a better spot to have a more successful launch. And so that's just how we do it here. We basically kind of live in a glass house, and we want to share everything that we possibly can with you. We're going to talk about how to monetize your programs, how to monetize your services with more, and look at those two words, predictable income. More predictable income. That's when you know you have a real business, when you can predict your income. We're going to share how to create the launch system, and we're going to teach you and share with you how you can go deeper with us and how you can get more done in 5 days than you ever have before. So our style is we're going to go quick, take notes, just follow along as much as you possibly can. But now I will say this, there's no such thing as a one size fits all in marketing in general. So we really want you to catch the concepts around these launch strategies and not this is exactly how I need to do my launch. You've got to remain flexible inside of your unique circumstances. But let us share with you some of the results that these strategies have created. You all know Lisa Nichols and Motivating the Masses, and the very first launch way back when we put together this kind of a strategy was relatively minor in comparison to the platform and what we've done since, and that was just a $40,000 launch. I say just a $40,000 launch. I don't want to poo-poo that at all, but compared to some of the numbers now, I really want you to understand that Lisa Nichols started out relatively small. One of the things that you've got to give yourself permission to do is be a beginner in anything in life. And that's not easy for the ego to do, but you have to do it so that you can get better and better. The second launch, there was improvement. The third launch, there was a lot more improvement, nearly $200,000. And this past fall or spring rather, 2015 Speak and Write launch was over $1 million. So I want you to see that the trajectory ideally is going to go higher and higher and higher. Now, I've done some of my own launches. The very first launch I can remember doing was a $14,000 launch. And let me tell you, I was jumping for joy over that $14,000. I was so excited. And then I started to do more launches and learn from my mistakes and so forth. And I did launch after launch after launch. My fifth launch, I finally crossed the $40,000 mark, which is I was really excited about. And then my seventh launch, which was last year, I had a $40,000 goal, and we ended up generating over $100,000. Now, in my community, this is a really small niche group, very conservative people with a $197 product. So we just wanted to give you a couple ideas of what can be created We want to help you design your launch, be prepared for it, and really maximize to the nth degree everything that we possibly can. So we're going to go after 3 huge components of your launch. And to kick off the nuggets, the teaching, the training here is one of my mentors, and she's the president and COO of Motivating the Masses, Miss Susie Carter.
Thank you, Sean. I'm excited. I'm excited to play. I'm excited to be here. I think one of the things that we don't really look at when we're doing this stuff, because part of this is such a creative process, and we get stopped and we don't want to talk about the money. Like, what are things going to cost? And studying this with you and studying it with other launch leaders, it's something that's not talked about a lot. What does it really cost to do a launch? So I'm going to get into, one, our belief systems around money and what we believe money is or money isn't. Because until we have a breakthrough on what money means to you, it's going to be hard to have a breakthrough in the kind of results that you have. So we talk about it a lot in our community, and we talk about where does those beliefs come from, and some are because we're men and women. Women have different beliefs than men. Generations have different beliefs. Men now versus 20 years ago, women now versus 20 years ago. What does money mean? You know, in the olden days, it was men made the money, women take care of the home. Now it's all over the place. You know, both men and women are doing both, but what does it mean for you? What your nationality, what your culture is. You know, what's their belief system about money? You know, I grew up in a culture of, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. We don't have any, so don't ask for it. You know, there's never enough to go around. You got to work hard to get money. You know, that was my cultural conversation. The community conversation, which was our family, is my dad gave us the biggest gift, which was work hard and you can make all the money you want. So although we didn't get allowance, we didn't get anything, there was 9 of us in a family. There was Bobby, Ronnie, Stevie, Terry, Joni, Shelley, Susie, Kelly, Debbie. So we're all fighting for money, right? We're all fighting for chores. And my dad said, look, we don't have any money to give you allowance. Go out and earn your money. Go talk to neighbors. Go see what odd jobs you could do. So he pushed us out there. So my family gave me my work ethic that I have today, and also gave me that ability that money's all around me. Now, I worked hard for that. I really had to go find it. So I've always had that entrepreneur spirit inside of me. The environment in which you work in, live in, and surround yourself. You know, I can't be around people that have a limiting belief around money because it stagnates me. When someone says, oh, I can't afford that. Oh, I can't go there. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't. Well, money is a creative energy. So we have to open up that creativity to allow the money to come in. And what's your self-talk about money? What's that mind chatter about money? I have a prayer that I do when I'm writing bills. I have a prayer that I do when I receive money, when I receive my paycheck, because to me, money is prosperous and I'm prosperous. And all that I do and all that I have blesses and multiplies. So I'm constantly putting that out in the universe, and it constantly comes back to me. So before we even talk about a launch, and we all talked about this, Sean, myself, Jen, we really looked at, you have to understand, are you afraid of a 6-figure launch? Because if you're afraid of it, don't launch that. Launch a 5-figure. But we want you to play big. We want you to play bold. So I want you to create some new beliefs around money so that when you're tapping at the door of that $100,000 launch, you don't think it's impossible. I want you to stretch yourself. I want you to stretch yourself to be uncomfortable, but I don't want you to stretch yourself where it's unbelievable for you. But I do want you to stretch yourself. So when I'm looking at creating goals and how are we going to finish strong in 2015? So that's why we decided to do this, because a launch can have you finish this quarter strong. And there's 2 aspects of your cash flow projections. One are sales forecasting and one are expenses estimation. So in general, the formula is cash flow equals total revenue minus total expenses. And that gives us that thing that I love, and you'll know that I love it. It's called profit. Profit is something that we plan for. Revenue and expenses are moving targets. So hardly ever do you reach where it's in sync with each other. We're constantly looking at our projections. We're constantly looking at the flow of money. We're constantly projecting cash flow. I'm on the phone with Sean, with Jen, with Cece, with Lisa, every single month going, here's the expenses, here's what we have in the pipeline, here's the CAPM. So I want you to be aware of when you're in this flow, The flow is creativity, but you also have to be able to change on a dime and look at your strategies on a dime. And Jen's going to talk about, and Sean's going to talk about that. But cash flow is a strategy. It's difficult to monitor and structure what we're doing, but you have to monitor your inventory. You have to monitor, do I need to do more advertising? We have to monitor ongoingly so that you don't fall short at the end of the launch and go, oh, I might have made a lot of money, but I didn't make any money. There was no money left over because there wasn't any money. I didn't plan appropriately. So what I want to look at is when we start really looking at how do you set your goals, is looking at how many units we want to sell. You know, we all heard Lisa's story about how I helped her grow her business 284%. Well, I'm giving you a snapshot at what we do every single month, every single product, every single thing that we do. We use this system. We set a goal for how many units we're going to sell and what the sales is. And then we evaluate what's the actual that actually occurs every single month so that we can look at the chasm. Jen has to give me projections. Sean has to give me projections. Cece has to give me projections. Shana has to give me projections. And this is what we're looking at every single month. Clarity is king. The clearer you are on your goals and objectives, the closer you are to that goal. So inside your launch, we need to look at how many units that you need to sell. I'm going to break it down for you, the sales key performance indicators that we're going to look at every single month. We want to look at your monthly sales. What's the average order size? Sean said his average order size was $197. But listen, he had people that bought 5 of the $197 things because he had people that had teams that they were buying the training for. But the average order size was $197. And Jen will talk about how do you determine that, but really looking at what's the price point that you need to sell. The next one, which is the juiciest one, is what's your average profit size. So profit is key. If it's not enough to sell a lot, you've got to make sure that you're making profit. Other indicators we want to look at is what's your conversion rate? Like how many people are converting and saying yes. This one's a juicy one, which is your shopping cart abandonment rate. So Jen looks at this, and she looks at when people come in, there's a percentage of people that got to the shopping cart and got scared and left. Well, what is that percentage? And then so we can do something specific to them. Another indicator that we're going to look at is list build. So maybe you didn't get all the sales that you want, but you attracted 5,000 more people to your list. There's a value in that. And what's your value per lead? So how much per lead did it cost you to get that client in your door, which is juicy, juicy, juicy. So now let's look at investment, because most people just go, oh, I'm going to put, here's my launch campaign. And Sean and I were working on this, and we started listing out every single thing it takes to launch a campaign. One is your graphic and your web design. And what is your budget for that? If you have a small budget, you need to make sure that you're finding people with a small budget. And whatever that budget is if it's $500 or $1,000 or $5,000, you need to be clear on that. It takes money to make money. So you can't do this without any money. You may have to get a loan on your credit card. You may have to go borrow from your retirement account. You may have to borrow from your home. Listen, when I started my speaking business, I took a second out on my home. I paid my mortgage payment on my credit card so that I could build and fund my dreams. Are you willing to be radical to do something like this? What's your marketing implementation plan? That means what's your ad budget? And are you having someone help you with your marketing plan? Because again, you don't want to just do this and not know what you're doing, because that will be a dismal failure, and we don't want that to happen. A project manager is the person that's holding accountable all the buy wins. Now, you might be most of these people, but know that there's a fee associated with these people. Your back-end support, we call that the Dwayne factor or the Matt factor. Those are the people that are managing the fulfillment of your product on the back end. Are you doing web delivery? Are you doing physical delivery? Are you doing, meaning, are we mailing a product out? If we're mailing a product out, then we have to consider postage as a cost unit in that promotion as well. We want to look at your advertising costs, your Facebook ads. What is your budget? Is it $5 a day or is it $20 a day? That has to be, if we're going to do an online campaign, be responsible for what's your budget. Google AdWords and pay per click. your social media person. And if you don't have a database, then we're going to have to go to affiliates. And if we go to affiliates, that can be as high as 50% of the revenue that comes in. I've got to pay Sean. I've got to pay Bob. I got to pay Joe. Whoever it is, 50% of that money that comes in. And if you make that agreement, because what I find that some new people do is they get excited about, oh my God, I made $25,000, or oh my God, I made $100,000, but they forget to pay their affiliates, you'll never have affiliates again. So that's a cost that we have to put into the budget when we're putting together this promotion. Don't overlook that cost. It's a huge value and it's a huge investment. So we also have to invest in your platform. And so I put a couple here. Kajabi, GoToWebinar, Instant Teleseminar. Are you going to use a website portal or are you going to use WordPress? Are your customer relationship management? Those are things like MailChimp, Infusionsoft, Entreport, One Shopping Cart, and PayPal. There's fees associated with all of these. So whatever we decide to do, whatever we decide to put in place, we've got to sit down and then budget out what are these things going to cost me to run this campaign. This is why when you start looking at, wow, I really need support in putting the foundation together. But here's the beauty. Once the foundation's in place, once the system's in place, that's when you can turn it on and it becomes the ultimate cash machine because you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Now, the next piece in really looking at our estimates and our costs associated is your content creation costs. So a lot of times we're not thinking about, oh, I've got to write the content. Well, even if you personally write the content, you still have to make it beautiful. You still have to sexy it up. You still have to give it that wow factor. So are you going to write an ebook? Are you going to do a PowerPoint? Are you going to do a webinar? Do video? Are you going to get scripts written? And what's your copywriter cost? So I don't trust myself in writing all the copy. I write the bullets and then I give it to Jen, and then Jen makes it sing. So she understands the language of our consumer. She understands the architect of our consumer, and that's worth paying for because my conversion rates will be higher. But all this has to go into our budget of how we're launching a successful campaign. And then finally, we're going to go into our pricing strategy. And our pricing strategy is our goals, our expenses, plus our profit, divided by the number of units we want to sell equals our pricing strategy. So every demographic is different. So it's important to understand, like Sean said, my customer, I sold them a $1,197 product. Our market, we might sell at a $4,000, $4,900 market. It just depends on what that customer is looking for. And then I want to look at the profit that we're planning for that. It's extremely important that you spend time putting the budget together. These are all the it's, and then in a strategy session, you'll go through and we'll plug in numbers to go, here's what the real cost of a campaign can go to lead up to. So it's important that you have the foundation, you have the budget, and then that leads us into our marketing strategy and how we're going to get that customer to come into our door. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Jen Kim so she can talk about the brand and the brand strategy and creating an epic brand to build the story of your launch.
Thanks, Susie. So, hi everyone. For those of you that know me, I'm Jen Kim. I'm the brand officer at Motivating the Masses, and I've been doing this thing for 18 plus years, and the benefit of working with our team and working with me specifically is that I've never been anything but a marketer. And there's a lot of people out there that there's two schools of thought, and both schools of thought are great. The first school of thought is I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to figure out how to be a marketer, and I'm going to keep trying and building and trying and building and trying and building. There's another school of thought where you go ahead and work with or consult with somebody who only does marketing that helps you build your launches, your strategy, your implementation from scratch. And the great news is when you have people like Susie and Sean and myself teaching you today, we're both types of people, and so I think that's a very unique attribute to the way that we teach and the skill sets that we bring to the party when we work with our amazing clients and colleagues. So I am going to teach you about how to create an epic brand story to build and launch your authority, but I wanted to touch on a couple things from what Susie said. If you've ever been on webinars before that teach you quote unquote launch plans, quote unquote make 6 figures in 6 weeks, those types of launch plans. I'm not here to dig on anybody else's process, but what I can say when you work with us is we will keep it real for you. And the reason that we opened this up with the portion on profitability, cash flow, revenue, planning your launches is because that part of the equation so many times is not talked about because it's not sexy. Okay, but we're not here to, give you a ball of sexy. We're here to tell you what it really actually takes. And when you just jump from, go straight into what we call the mechanics of launching, which Sean is going to get into right after me, then you've missed the whole point. And that's quote unquote dirty little secrets of the marketing industry, is that people teach you the mechanics of launching. They can teach you the systems of launching. But if you don't get clear on the money you want to make, have realistic goals around them, and then build your launch around that, you are set up to, I'm just going to say it, you're set up to fail. And right now, Susie, Sean, and I are here to help set you up to win. So if all that money talk was glossing over and you didn't get a chance to take notes, I'm sure this replay is going to be available to some of you to be able to track back. So I just want to remind you, if you have your journal out right now or a notepad, please take notes, because what Susie just shared with you is, again, not the sexy stuff. I don't know about you guys, money is sexy to me and impact is sexy to me. So when I learned how to be a better cash flow predictor and wrap my goals around that, my launches started singing, because I had the marketing thing on fleek. I had that going. I knew how to market, I knew how to brand, I knew how to build interest in anything. I could build interest in a rock, okay? but what I always constantly have to be looking at as a CEO mindset is, am I really making money? Where's the profit? Where's the money being spent? And when you are intentional about marketing your brand to get seen, get heard, get paid, then you have to be looking at that. So don't eliminate that from the part when I get into kind of the sexy words and Sean gets into the actual launch mechanisms. The entire process is required to have a launch and a marketing system that looks unlike so many others who are struggling out there. And so I just wanted to be clear when I opened up all about that, because even I was taking notes as Susie was speaking. So first we talked about, so Susie talked about the money and the money plan. I'm actually going to talk about what is the essence of your brand, because here's the thing, you can sell a widget, right? You can sell a widget, and that widget can be amazing. It can be valuable. It can be helpful. But right now, let's face it, guys, we're living in a world that's completely overstimulated. Am I right? I can't see you right now, but I can visually see you. I'm raising my hand. Do you get pummeled with messages all day, every day, on the internet, on your mobile phone, on TV, right? I mean, advertisers are good at what they do, right? And so knowing how to cut through the noise is so important, and the best way to cut through the noise, because many of you are speakers, authors, coaches, and entrepreneurs that are in what I call helperpreneur categories or infopreneur categories. You're selling information, you're selling consulting, that type of thing. What sets you apart is your story. And so I want you to write that down. What is setting me apart is my story. That is the entire foundation, because if you can get that right, if you can get super clear and certain about who you are, who you serve, why you're here, and why it even matters to the people that have, taken the time to listen to you through a webinar like this one or through a talk in the front of the room, that foundational work has to be done. And I call it building your brand story. And you're going to see in a moment, after I go through these 10 steps to build a compelling, foundational, delicious brand story, how then you can snap in the system, the marketing system, the launch system, to be able to touch as many people as possible, and then of course to close as many deals as possible. Because let's face it, if you're not selling, you're not in business, you're a hobbyist. So let's jump into that. So get your pens out and get ready to work. So again, doing the foundational work to help people get your brand. So the first thing is, Sean, I'm just waiting for my slides to come up.
Yeah.
There we go. Thanks, Sean. So identifying your essence. What's your why anyway? So again, there's going to be 10 steps here, so follow along with me. So identifying your essence. What's your why? There's a book by Simon Sinek and also a very, very popular TED Talk called What's Your Why by Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. And he talks about how people buy because of your why, not because of your what. And so when you can, so my first prompt to you is ask yourself, why are you built to serve? Not just with the products and services that you have. We're going to get through that in one of the steps, okay, steps 1 through 10. But right up front, why are you here? Why does it matter? Why is this thing that you're bringing to people going to change their lives? But most of all, what compelled you to bring it to the world? That's the essence of your brand. Don't shy away from that. A lot of people say, well, you know, I got to go and I got to hear from my customers. Absolutely. And by the way, that's going to be one of the 10 steps here. But it's got to start with you, because if you can't stay passionate about your why is the reason you're going to stay in the game when it's challenging, when you're launching. And that first launch that Sean mentioned where he did 14K and he was jumping for joy, but because we've gotten all these stimuli that, oh, we're supposed to be doing 6-figure launches, you might look at that 14K and go, that's a bummer. I spent all this money and put in all this effort. Guys, it's only the first step. Your why is going to make you stay motivated to stay in the game, because at the end of the day, your why is helping people. Step 2 is your catalyst moment. So what is the defining experiences that brought you to where you are? So the catalyst moment is, frankly, normally it's something that happened to you that made you fall into a hole of some type. You'll hear Lisa Nichols call it the dip, where it's something that radically shifted the trajectory of your life. And as entrepreneurs, we are built such that a lot of times, most of us didn't decide to become entrepreneurs at a young age like Susie, but I actually did too. So we're kind of weirdos in all the good ways possible. So there's something in your life that's happened that made you say, I can't do this anymore. Maybe your catalyst moment could look something like this. You got laid off from a job that you thought was extremely secure. Your spouse, unfortunately you had a divorce with your spouse, and as a result of that you had to recreate your life or your business or your business. It could look like, unfortunately, there was a tragedy in your family, something. Everyone has a catalyst moment, and by the way, it doesn't have to be negative either. It could be, my catalyst moment was the day that I met Oprah Winfrey, and she did a documentary on me, and as a result of that, I worked my butt off to become a thought leader. Okay, that's actually one of our global leaders is going through that right now. So for those of you who don't know what our global leadership program is, it's our highest level mastermind for thought leaders, authors, coaches, and speakers. So my point is that the catalyst moment doesn't always have to be negative, but it's something that radically shifted your direction. That's important, because people get inspired and motivated by your catalyst moment. They don't want to just see that your product is thebomb.com. They want to see what made you do it to begin with. That's why these two pieces are critical. Step 3 is your Phoenix move. So most times, that catalyst moment, like I said, it's more like an 80-20 thing. 80% of the time, that catalyst moment was something that made you fall into a dip, okay? So they want to hear your story of coming up, okay? And by the way, all these prompts that I'm giving you, you can literally write your website with these prompts. So this is value not just to create launches, but your website can be updated with these stories. Your product descriptions can be updated with the stories. So don't lose that in the prompting, because this is how deep you've got to bring people so you can cut through the noise that I spoke about up front. So again, how did you rise up out of the fire? What were the steps that you took? Did you hire a coach? Did you take a course that helped you build your brand? Did you seek therapy? Whatever you did to rise out of the fire, people love the coming up story. We call, in the branding space, I have this methodology called brand archetyping. And brand archetyping is basically getting to the essence and the foundation of your brand. Well, that's called the hero archetype. When you think of Nike or you think of FedEx, these are brands that help create aspiration in customers. So your Phoenix move is kind of you living in that hero archetype. How can you show that even when you were in the hole, in the dip, you know, in going through your catalyst move, how did you put your cape on? How did you put your big girl pants on, big boy pants on, and make it work regardless? That's your Phoenix move. Step 4 is now we're getting, okay, so notice the first 3 could feel existential, or they could feel kind of soft. They are the most powerful weapons you have in your branding arsenal, steps 1 through 3, because that's where the authenticity of your brand and who you are comes through. So now you with that, you earn the right for step 4, which is explaining your industry or your business. Really going into what does your company do? Like, and being clear about that. I like to answer the question like this. Not just what does your company do, or what does your brand do, or what does your product do, but what does your brand do really? So that word really is so important in step 4, because we try to play on the surface too much, guys. We always go, oh, they'll get it that I sell coaching. Well, you know, Sean is in the top 1% of coaching people because he's been able to go down a niche market, and he did that on purpose. He could coach anybody because Sean's an amazing coach. But why did he choose a niche market where he could serve and overserve? Because he answers the question of really, really well. Okay? So think about not just what do you do, but then ask yourself the second part of this question. Part B of this question is, what does your company do really? Okay? Step 5 of the foundational work, so that people get you, is so critical. And you hear this time and time and time again. And you know what? I'm not trying to be different here, guys, because this is just the truth. Your audience, the people who are buying your products and services, and by the way, your ideal client, your ideal audience, your ideal client avatar, all of those terms, all the same thing. It's very important that not only are they fitting the demographics and the psychographics of who your brand's about, but they have to be able to pay you. Okay? Let me write that down. Your ideal client can pay you. All right? And so by going through the story, it can't just be this Pied Piper entrancing story. It has to also call forth the people who are ready to take radical action because of the way that you plant who they are to them. They're going to raise their hands, I want to hear you and I want to see you, but you want them raising both of their hands to say, I want to pay you too. So going inside of them, understanding their story, understanding what's psychologically triggering them is such an important role. So a lot of people go lightweight on this step because they're like, oh, well, my ideal client is a woman 18 to 26 years old. She's a new college student. Just graduated, ready to go on into her job or career. So I help them find, you know, their first job. Maybe that's what your program is about, right? But there's a lot of people doing that. In fact, their college campuses and counselors can do that for them for quote unquote free. Hello, they probably paid over 6 figures to go to college, but you know, to them that's free. How do you set yourself apart? Well, first of all, you have to decide, is that really the market that you should be going after? And you'll do that if you do the deep work in step 5. But also, instead of just saying, I offer a way for you to build the best resume to get your first job, what about you talk to what's really triggering them? What's the worry that's coming up for them that they may not find their first job? Or how can they set themselves apart with so much, you know, the millennials, that generation is the biggest demographic after the baby boomers. In fact, they're exceeding numbers of the baby boomers. And so it's a huge market to go after. But because of that, that's a plus and a minus because you need to find the person in that. So in my example, what's really driving your audience member to even need or want or desire that from you? All right, step 6. And I realize we're going fast, guys, because we have a time, and I want to give the mic to Sean. So, you know, again, just answer the questions, do the homework after the webinar because it's going to make all the difference in the world. You can actually take this right now and build out a website or a launch plan with just these questions. Okay, number 6 is talents and secret superpowers. So beyond what your customer does, beyond what your company does, rather, what are the other extra special whiz kid things that you do that your clients, your ideal customers tell you you're excellent at? So it's not just the surface, hey, we coach new graduates to get their first real job. It's and we have a built-in system whereby we are able to assess your strengths and your weaknesses. We are able to help place you in certain areas to be seen more by the right recruiters. Like, what are the extra special things? It could be we're a very high-touch brand. We have coaches on staff that directly speak to you, not just done through email. Whatever your secret superpowers are, you want to list them out because you do have something separate than just the surface offering. Number 7 is back to your audience. You notice how there's a ping pong between you and then them and then you and then them, because it is a symbiotic relationship. Your story is just as important as their story. And when you put the two together, that's when people want to say, I want to go from dating you to marrying you, okay? So a tribe called them means what's in it for them. So the WIIFM, what's in it for me? At the end of the day, people want to invest in things that they feel will truly transform their experience of life or their experience of work or their experience of business, okay? And so you have to get to the point where you're really able to say succinctly what is in it for them in like 3 bullets or less. This number 7 is about, in 2 to 3 sentences, who the heck are you and why does it matter? All right, step 8 is touch and truth. What experience should your people expect? Okay, guys, my definition of branding is everything. Write that down. And you guys are probably like, what? Branding is everything. It is, guys, because your business is your brand. You're constantly managing how people see you on the front end, how people are experiencing you when you've actually sold them into a product or service, and then after the fact, how do you stay in touch? So these customer touch points, these client touch points, even before they become paying customers, when they're not just, I don't like the word just, because prospects are as important as the actual clients, because you're nurturing them through a sequence. So you should be looking at what are the ways that my brand, my business, my product gives an experience that people can depend on or expect from me. Also, the things that they should not expect from you are very important. If this is a $197 product, guys, you're not actually, I don't feel that people should expect that you have this personal concierge for each person in the program. But you might have a one-to-many concierge that helps people through in the Facebook group, or helps field Q&As for you for a monthly Q&A call. So being very clear about what your touch and truth is along the way helps set the expectations for your customers and yourself, so that your team doesn't fall apart, or yourself, frankly, if you're managing all of this by yourself in the beginning stages of your brand. All right, step 9 is real results. So what will your clients and customers get out of working with you? So this is where the rubber hits the road, you guys. So some of you, which this webinar right now is about teaching people who are already in business how to build launches that can be multiple 6 figures, all right? So my assumption when I speak to this point is that you already have worked with clients where you've been able to document the real results of the breakthroughs you've helped them achieve through your product and or services. Okay, now if for some reason you're listening to this webinar and you still haven't launched a product or service, that's okay, because what I like to say here, right here, do this. Go find 5 people, okay, offer them your products and services in exchange to be able to build some real results that are authentic testimonials to the work that you do in the world. So important. Social proof, we call that social proof and credibility, so important, because again, there's many choices in the world. Don't miss this step and think you can go sell somebody a $10,000 product when you have nothing to show for it, okay? Go and make the investment in the time to go get the right testimonials to show that your system or your product works. All right, and finally, step 10 is creating your culture. So it's the entire end-to-end summary of how your brand story serves the customer. So through all of these 10 steps, you're able to build what I call a manifesto or a culture credo of what people who come into your business can expect from you? Can they expect timely billing? Can they expect the product to be delivered on time? I know this sounds a little bit like number 8. Number 8 is brainstorming what your touch and truth is, and number 10 is actually putting that down in writing when you're delivering your products and services through a launch, which Sean is going to get to in just a few seconds here. So what does this all mean when I say that building the foundation means building your story? Well, it's the basis of all the communications of your brand. And let's face it, you have to be communicating your brand. You have to be communicating what you're up to in the world for people to see, hear, and pay you. So now, if you do the work on those 10 steps that I just gave you, and we would go deeper if you joined us at our implementation group training that we're going to have, that Sean's going to get to in a minute. But now you have the story bridge. You actually have it. So if you do the work, you can actually leave this webinar and have that as your foundation. But where the power is when you connect that to your marketing system, which Sean is going to go over in just a few seconds. So again, it's story plus the system equals the launch magic. Okay, so, and when you launch them, you'll have a system to launch them consistently, persistently, and systematically so that you can keep building that revenue, keep hitting the goals that you put in your goal plan that Susie went over, and just feel at peace knowing that you're doing it in a way that is going to create a blossoming effect right now and over time. So with that said, I'm going to hand the mic over to Sean Smith, who's going to tell you how to connect that system to the story.
Thank you, Jen. That was awesome. And Susie as well, thank you very much. And one thing that I just want to highlight that Jen said, and Susie alluded to it as well, is how important this foundational work is before you get into just all the mechanics. You know, without the foundation, without the story arc, without the systems, just learning the mechanics of how to market is going to be failure. And a dirty little secret in the launching game that a lot of people don't tell you, because I think they're ashamed of it, is that the people that just know how to sell, the people that just know how to do all the marketing, and we're not here to shed any bad light on anybody. We're just here to prepare you to make sure that you know what you need to know going into it. But one of the things that happens with people that know how to sell really well, they do the marketing part really well, but because they don't understand their client, because they don't go through those 10 steps that Jen went through, because they're not set up systematically like Susie was talking about, there is a gigantic return rate in most of the big power launches. And I don't say that to take anything away from what people are doing, but you just have to understand the game. And the reason there's a big return rate is because they're really good at selling, but they're not really good at fulfilling. They can cause people to open up their wallet, but then when they get the product, they realize it's not a very good match. It's not a very good fit because they haven't done a lot of the foundational work. So I'm assuming that you are interested in doing the foundational work, obviously. And once you're all set up with the systems and with the story arc, like Jen was talking about, now let's look at the actual blueprint of a launch. And I want to give you a few mindset pieces before, just to understand the benefits of a good launch, right? Because it's not what a lot of people are searching for or are expecting. Number one, you increase your list in your community. You can do really well with a well done launch to grow your list size tremendously. You also can create a buzz about you and or your product, what's going on in the marketplace. You can build a lot of credibility as well as authority when you do a good launch. You can learn about your seeker or your avatar or your ideal client. All of those labels are interchangeable. You learn about this person. So even if you don't, get them to join your community now, then your learning about them will help you serve them better in the future. And then finally, this is the thing that most people want to do launches for, is to make money, right? Generate revenue, make sales, and that's obviously important, but it's not the whole thing. And a few key lessons that I've learned is that the success or failure of your launch will actually not be determined by how well you are strategized at the beginning, right? How well you plan out your launch. I've never done a launch that went the way I had initially planned it to go. So it's the pre-game stuff that most people put a whole lot of energy into, and then they're not flexible with that. So it's not going to be your success is not going to only be determined by that. It's really going to be determined on what you do during the launch and what you do after the launch. So I call those your in-game strategies and your post-game strategies. And then one mistake that I've made in several launches, and the thing that I got really, really well with the six-figure launch that I did in that small niche community, is I focused on the launch completely. If you really want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening, you've got to focus on your launch completely. And what I mean by that is, don't do what I did in the beginning, which is where you just do a launch in your spare time because you're so busy serving all these different avatars and all these target markets, and your scattered energy won't allow you to have that connection with your seeker, with your avatar during the launch. So I want you to really create the time to focus on it completely. And that might sound self-explanatory, but when I did my launch, for the first time literally in my entire career, people would call me or they would email me and they would ask to talk to me, and I would tell them, I'm in launch mode right now. You have to call me back next month. And in the past, I would take those calls thinking it's only a 30-minute call or it's only a 45-minute call, no big deal. But it's the fragmentation of the energy that tends to add up on itself, okay? So I want you to really focus intentionally. Now, on this webinar, with the time that we have remaining, I'm going to go over the 5 main phases of a good launch, and then you're going to be flexible and expand or contract these phases to match your market. So the first one is to research and plan, and I'm going to dive deeper into each of these as after I explain all of them to you. Research and plan, the first phase. Jen already touched on some of that. The second phase is to give, engage, and interact. That's the beginning of the launch. The third phase is when you invite to your presentations, followed by the fourth phase, which is where you invite to purchase, and I'll explain how those are different. And then the fifth phase is to nurture the non-buyers. So let's get into each one of these individually. Phase number 1 is where you research and plan. And that's why I've titled this the interactive launch blueprint. I am not a big fan of guessing and hoping. Guessing what your target market might want, guessing what they'll buy, guessing what they'll pay, and then hope that they do. I am a big fan of asking them. Just do surveys. If you already have a community, send an email out and say something like, I'm getting ready to do some videos, or I'm getting ready to create a product. What is it that I can help you with? What are the burning questions that keep you up at night? What are the things that you wish you could snap your finger and fix just like that? Let me help you with some of that stuff. And you go in and you actually ask your seeker, ask your community, your tribe, what they want. See, one of the most powerful tools one of the most powerful assets you have, and I think this is really the golden goose or the holy grail in marketing, is the conversation inside your target client's head. If you know that conversation, then you've basically got free range to serve them as much as you can and make as much money as you want. You literally have access to an ATM machine if you know what the conversation is that's going on inside your target client's head. Most people don't take the time to figure that out. Jen already alluded to that. Whether it's laziness or they don't know how to do it, it's no excuse. You've got to dig in there because that's where your most valuable information is found, inside the minds of your target client. So survey your community. If you have a community, do what I call seeker interviews. Just ask people who are very close to your target client. Say, listen, I did this when I launched my coaching my coaching program. And I didn't even tell you about that program. The coaching launch that I did generated about $65,000 in revenue. And that was with a target list of about 25 people. Now, that's not 25 people who got into the shopping cart. That's 25 people total that ever even knew about anything that I was doing. And out of those 25 people, there were 7 of them that ended up purchasing a $10,000 program. Now, there were a couple people that I had given discounts to. That's why the dollar amount was only $65,000. But 65,000 people, or $65,000 generated out of literally not even an interest list, which is where people raise their hand and say, yeah, I want to know about that, a total list of 25 people. So when you really study your market, you can get such valuable information that the numbers can be staggering. So what I did is I called people or I emailed people and I said, listen, I'm doing some work to help brand new coaches build their business. I know you're a brand new coach. Could I pick your brain for about 15 to 20 minutes? I've got a bunch of questions I want to ask you, and I would just really appreciate it if you help me do some market research. And I didn't have anybody tell me no. A lot of people think nobody's going to want to help me out. You would be surprised at how many people want to help you do this market research. Now, what will happen almost invariably at the end of that call, they're going to be interested in everything that you're doing because you're going to ask them very specific, very strategic questions. I have a client that said after 6 seeker interviews, she ended up with 3 paying clients because they're intrigued at this point. They want to know what you're doing when you get into their mind. So you want to research and then you plan what, using the information that you get, then you plan what videos you're going to do, what content you're going to provide based on the information they've given you. Please hear me. It is way easier to ask and then deliver what they say they want than it is for you to hope and decide ahead of time what you think they'll want. And also understand there's a difference between what they want and what they'll buy. Jen really highlighted that, and you can't underestimate the importance of that. That is so critically important because everybody will tell you what they want, but what will they actually buy? That's why you've got to do this research. Phase 2, after you get that information, you start to plan a little bit, then you give your content away. Now, generally what that looks like in the launches that I've done and what I'm going to suggest you at least start out with is 3 videos. Do a video on 3 of the most common questions that they have, 3 of the the most intriguing conversations that they want to hear about. And when you do these videos, you got to ask for engagement. You strategically inside the video and on the page, you ask them to continue engaging with you. Tell me how this video is resonating with you. If there's anything else you want to learn, let me know. And then you've got to respond to your crowd. Don't ask for engagement if you're not going to respond to them. Now, if you get to the point where you've got huge numbers, it might not be you actually responding, but at least make sure that there's a response. Maybe you have your assistant or an intern or somebody responding to them. But one of the best ways to lose rapport with your crowd is to ask them to engage with you and then ignore them. Because they'll never want to engage with you again. You'll actually make them feel bad by asking them to be heard and then not responding to them. So in this phase, you want to create this engagement, this dialogue, you're creating motion. And then phase 3 is when you start to invite them to these presentations. Now, these presentations are sales presentations because you're going to give them a lot of valuable content, but at the end of the presentation at the end of the presentation, you're going to invite them into your program. You're going to invite them to buy your product, whatever whatever it is that you're selling. You're going to invite them to purchase at the end of each of these presentations. So the first invitation happens at video number 4. Inside that video, you talk to them about this new thing that you're doing and you invite them to make a purchase. And you have a link there so they can actually sign up and register. When I first did this, I was appalled and I was depressed and I was dejected at how few people bought after that 4th video. I was ready for the money to come flying in. And what I've learned since then is that a lot of people never even see that 4th video. And it's just the nature of human behavior, right? If they have 4 videos, there's going to be a small percentage of them that even watch the 4th video. And some of them won't ever even get to the end where they know about your program. So one of the things that I've learned is to give them more presentations in as many different learning modalities as you possibly can. So what I suggest you do next is a series of webinars. And at the webinar, you're again going to invite them to purchase. And then after you do your webinars, you do teleseminars. And at the end, you're going to invite them to purchase. Now, here's the key here. The webinars and the teleseminars have a new angle. They're not the same content that you talked about in video number 4. They've got a new angle, a new perspective, because you're trying to give people as many different learning modalities, right? The first one, they watch a video. The second one, they watch a webinar, which is more interactive. It's in front of the computer. The third one, they get on the phone, which is easier. It's more convenient for a lot of people. And you want to give as many people as many different ways to plug in as possible, right? But you've got to give them a new angle. Don't just give them 3 different ways to hear the same content. There will be people that watch your 4th video, don't buy. Watch your webinars, don't buy. Listen to your teleseminars, and they finally buy, because they just need more information. So you want to give them new angles constantly. And what I suggest you do is you rerun these webinars and the teleseminars live several times over. During my $100,000 launch, I did the same exact webinar live 4 times in a row in a span of 6 days. And then I did the same exact teleseminar live 4 days in a row in a span of 6 days. And I was blown away at the predictability of the results. About the same number of people attended and bought every single one of those live presentations. So if you're willing to get radical, and you're willing to serve, you can create some great results. Then phase 4 happens. After you've given them these presentations, then at a certain point you say, okay, the people who've already come to the presentations are probably all that I'm going to get. Now I've got all these people inside this community who have opted into this launch who are not going to come to the presentation. Now I just have to invite them to purchase the product. So now you start selling them on the program itself. So understand the distinction. For a while, you're trying to get them to go to the presentations, and then you try to get them to go to the replays of the presentations. And then you say, you know what, at this point, I'm just going to send them to the sales page. I'm going to tell them about the product itself in the emails. And if they are late comers, meaning they're opening your emails late, and maybe a week and a half ago, you sent them an email that said, hey, you can hear the replay now of the teleseminar I did. You want to post all of those recordings on the sales page. At this point, you're several weeks into your launch, and now all the traffic from every email you've sent out is going to the sales page. That's critical. This is how you create momentum that throughout the end, especially towards the end of the launch, but you create momentum that just keeps going and going and going. And then people are buying from all different angles. They might still be showing up 2 weeks late to the replay of your webinar. They go to the sales page and then they buy, right? You don't want to have to send people to different sales pages or replay pages. You want to put them all on one URL. That's one of the smartest things that I did my last 2 launches. And I can't tell you how impactful it was. And then the 5th phase, after you decide, okay, the launch is over, and you close the cart and you're not accepting any purchases anymore, you're going to have a lot of people. The majority of the people are not going to buy your product. They just won't. That's the reality. The majority of people are not going to buy your product. But these people are still hungry. Don't forget about them. This is one of the biggest mistakes I made through all of my launches except the last 2. And this is a huge mistake that most people make. Most people just turn their back on all the people that participated in the launch but didn't purchase during the launch. So they're riled up. And contrary to what might be popular opinion, or it might be evident, contrary to that, it's actually a great time to offer them private coaching. Some of these people really want help, but for whatever reason, they're just not jiving with what you're giving them. They don't want a product or they don't want a group program, but some of them are lit up and they're engaged and they're intrigued, and you can actually offer to do some private coaching, maybe some consultations, and you'd be surprised at how many people are ripe for private coaching. And then at the end, what you can do is ask them why they didn't buy, and how you can serve them better. As long as you're doing this from the right heart, people actually will really appreciate it, and they'll tell you. They'll just say, you know what, I don't have the money right now, or I just bought somebody else's program, or some of the things that they'll tell you will help you go, oh, it's just bad timing for them or bad circumstances for them. And then some of the things they'll tell you will actually give you ammunition to go back to them and either sell that exact same program or offer them a different program, right? One of the things that I've done in my last couple launches, which has been tremendously successful, is actually, I'm going to tell you that in a moment on the next slide. But hang on, what I'm going to share with you on the next slide is huge, especially with this last piece about if you ask people why they didn't buy and what you can get. So finally, what I want to share with you is some of the in-game adjustments. I told you about how important those are. Some of the in-game adjustments I want you to focus on. These are my suggestions. Now, a lot of people don't want to do this, and that's fine. But I've found tremendous results being totally fluid. And I started doing the videos in real time, meaning I would film video number 1, send it out, get the engagement, answer the questions. 2 days later, film video number 2, and then send it out. So I was filming the videos based on the engagement. Now, a lot of people don't prescribe to that because they want to get everything out ahead of time, and that's fine. But what I've found is when you can incorporate the ongoing conversation, it just adds to the juiciness of the launch. So if you can do that, I actually highly suggest you do that in real time so it's organic. Now, I also, in the same vein, decided on the webinar and teleseminar content according to the engagement. So if people were asking certain questions, or if there was a lot of comments around a certain theme, I would say, wow, a lot of people are thinking about this or asking about this. That's what I'm going to do my webinar on. Because now you know the holes that are in people's mindset, and then you can fill those holes based on the live engagement. One of the things that we believe in all the time, you hear us say this word, is are you willing to get radical? One of the ways I got radical, which is what I was alluding to a few minutes ago, is I did Q&A sessions one-on-one with people. Once I found out that a lot of people out there had questions that I hadn't answered, I said, great, let's get on the phone. And there was a trip that I made to Northern California. I was in the car for 6 hours, and I sent out an email, and I booked myself for about 25 one-on-one calls for people that had questions about the product. And I said, if you are interested in possibly purchasing this program, I want to talk to you one-on-one. If you're not interested in this program or don't have any idea what this is about, please don't book a session with me. This is only for people that have questions about this program. And I got on the phone. Number one, it made my drive incredibly fast. And I got on the phone with I think about 50 people booked. I got on the phone with probably 35 to 40 people because not everybody showed. And I closed about 75% of them because I was willing to listen to the questions that they had. And they showed up basically saying, can you please answer this one question so I can buy your program? Because there was so much buzz that had already been created. And the final thing is be willing to respond to them personally or have an assistant, whatever you can do, but engage with these people. Treat them with respect. And when you do that, you're going to be able to create much more connection with your crowd. So hopefully these 3 pieces that we've been sharing over the last hour or so have given you the right elements, the 3 main components of a launch. And hopefully you can see yourself fitting in to these components. Now, what we want to tell you about next is something that we really, truly are buzzing about in motivating the masses. One of the questions that we ask ourselves all the time is, how can we serve better? How can we take as many quitting points, as many obstacles out of the way for people? And what we see all the time is that people are overeducated but under-implemented. I'm going to say that again so it lands. Most people are overeducated, but they're under-implemented. So they know what to do, but they don't do it. And Jen and Susie and I and Lisa and Matt and everybody on the team, we've talked about this over and over and over again. And we all agree this is the single biggest reason most people don't create their dreams is because they don't implement. And so what we decided to do is create an event. And this is the first time we've done this event. You are the first people that have ever heard about this and the first invitation that we've given out for this event called the Launch Intensive. And what this is, it's a 5-day hands-on implementation workshop, not information workshop. It's an implementation workshop. And what we're going to do is we're going to take no more than 20 businesses, get you in a room, and walk you through these steps. We're going to teach deeper around some of the things that we've already talked about. We're going to teach some of the things that we just don't have time to teach inside this webinar. But the key thing is we're going to help you do the work in the room. Some of the things that we're going to talk about. Now, I say 20 businesses because you can actually bring a partner of yours so that you can implement further and faster. But there's only going to be 20 businesses represented. So if you bring somebody else with you, we're not going to help their business as well. It's not like bring a friend for free with a different business, because that just adds to our fragmentation, right? So 20 businesses, 20 brands inside this room or less, and it's going to be sleeves rolled up implementation. So some of the things that we'll go over is ad strategy. Susie talked about your Facebook ads. You got to learn how to create them, how to manage them. You might not be the one actually doing them, but you have to understand the components of your ads. We're going to look at the webinar templates and tools. The main way that we're going to teach you how to sell in this launch platform, in the launch intensive, is through webinars. Webinars are so powerful. They're a great way to sell, but they're relatively simple to do on your end if you do them the right way. We're going to teach you about the technology. We're going to teach you stick strategies to get people to show up on the webinar, to get people to stay on the webinar. We'll teach you the layout of your webinars. A webinar is basically a sales presentation. You've got to lay it out. It's got to be designed properly. Otherwise, you're just not going to achieve some of the results that you could otherwise achieve if you don't have a proper layout of the plan. We're going to go through the 5 phases that I just touched on at a high level, much deeper. We're going to talk about the launch timeline, how to plan heading into the launch. We're going to give you a launch calendar, how to create a systematic approach and make sure that you've got all your bases covered, and how to actually implement all that stuff. We'll go deeper into these 3 pieces that I talked about: the pregame, the in-game, the post-game. We'll actually do a lot of your pregame, and for some of you, we'll do some of your in-game strategies right there at the event. Some of you, if you're in the right place, you'll actually start your launch. You might turn Facebook ads on by Wednesday. And if you're in a place to do that, then we're going to help you make some of those adjustments. Now, that's not to say that if you're not in a place to turn the Facebook ads right away, that this isn't for you. We're probably going to have 2 to 3 different chunks, different buckets of people. If you're just starting, you haven't done any webinars before, you haven't really done those 10 steps that Jen walked you through, that's okay. We would rather you learn how to do it right from the very beginning, because a lot of people go, well, let me just go off and do a couple launches on my own and then come back and then learn how to do it right. Just listen to that strategy for a second. Let me go off and do it wrong for several times. Let me spend money that I don't need to spend. Let me waste money that I don't need to waste. Let me experience challenge and failure, and then I'll come back and do it the right way. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So if you're going to do it right, then do it right as fast as you possibly can. So if you're brand new in this, that's great. We're going to have the team prepared to help you through that phase. If you're a little further in, that's great. We'll have the team ready to help you through that phase. There might be a few of you who've already done launches before, and we're going to have the team prepared to help you maximize and strategize to get your launches to a bigger level, make a bigger impact. We're going to go through the entire campaign beyond your launch. The launch is a component of a bigger campaign. especially when we get into some of those post-game strategies, you'll see how amazingly powerful and profitable your campaign is after the launch. And sometimes you can make more after the launch than you do inside the launch, as long as it's one big cohesive campaign. We're going to talk about how to profit.
Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Can I say something here?
Yes, please.
But I think what you're saying is so juicy. I want to talk about the failure ahead of time. Lisa and I, we all know that's not our gift to do the marketing. And Lisa and I tried over and over and over again before Jen came on to do this strategy, and we never had a successful online launch until Jen showed us the launch intensive strategy and walked us through. That was the first launch we did, that $40,000 launch. We were ecstatic because we tried doing launches. We had nothing, a big goose egg, zero, no money, because we just weren't doing it right. We were trying to follow everyone's discombobulated system because nobody was giving the true turnkey. There was took a bit here, took a bit here, took a bit here, took a bit here, and then finally when Jen came on, she goes, "What are you all doing?" So I want to personally speak from our failure in doing it wrong and knowing the value of when you have the system to get it right. It makes a world of difference. So I apologize for interrupting you, but it was so, everyone thinks we all have it together. We don't. We know what we know and do really, really well. And this we've learned to do really, really well only because we had suffered for years before doing it wrong. So I just wanted to add that piece.
I appreciate you jumping in, and it really helps to hear the origin stories. And in this case, we're talking about a brand that was super healthy and been around for a long time, still struggling because some of these components were missing. And so if the earlier you are in your career, the harder it's going to be. I mean, you hear a story like Susie just told, Lisa Nichols, with the platform that they have, with the brand equity that they have, with the reputation they have in the marketplace, to go out and to follow some of the mechanics and create goose eggs. If that doesn't scare you into doing it the right way, then I don't know what will. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people fall prey to. They want to jump into that sexy 6-figure, 7-figure launch, and there's components missing. When the components are missing, you're going to struggle, you're going to fail, even though I hate to, prescribe that negativity, but it's just the reality. You're going to fail if you have required ingredients missing from your recipe. And we obviously don't want that to happen to you, because then it's going to be harder for you to get back up and learn from that to do launch number 2, to do launch number 5, etc. And finally, we're going to teach, I've been alluding to this, and Susie mentioned this as well, we're going to teach how to take that launch and turn it into an ongoing cash machine. How do you turn it into something that we call an evergreen cash generator? And that's really where this gets incredibly fun. Not that the rest of it isn't fun, but it gets really fun when you can put it on autopilot. So just to sum up some of the marketing, we're going to get into the marketing blueprint. We'll talk deeper about your brand strategy and understanding your archetype, a lot of the stuff that Jen was talking about. How do you create that messaging that's specific to your avatar, to your client, your target client, that's inside their conversation, inside their head? How do you write the emails for your audience? We're going to give you some pre-written emails that you can just put your information into. I mean, just imagine how much time that would save you. We're going to talk about affiliates. Susie mentioned if you don't have a big database, you've got to use affiliates. We're going to talk about how to go after and get affiliates, what they need to hear, what they don't need to hear. You're going to be given a lot of templates, a lot of things that are as turnkey as possible. And I say turnkey as possible because nothing is actually turnkey. I can't give you everything I did for any one of my launches and you go do it the exact same way, because we're dealing with different personalities, different target markets, different strengths, different weaknesses, all kinds of variables. But we're going to give you the systems as close to turnkey as possible, the launch sequences. We're going to give you a launch creator, which will save you so much time in designing the launch implementation strategy, a launch mind map. We're going to give you that webinar layout that we talked about. We'll teach you the social media campaigns, some of the posts that you can model, the social media calendar that you can go through. There's the pre-written email templates that I just mentioned. This is hot. Susie just showed me this the other day, and I just went, wow, that's a game changer right there. A 12-page comprehensive affiliate guidebook. This is something that Jen really helped, to my understanding, create when she came on board, and it is so powerful to help attract your affiliates and set them up to succeed, because managing your affiliates is its own game in itself. It's not easy, especially if you don't know how to do it properly. We're going to give you some of those affiliate scripts. We're going to give you outlines for the videos. By the way, you're going to film videos in the room. So we're not going to teach you what to do, and then you have to go off and create the studio or hire a videographer to come. We're going to have the people, we're going to have the equipment in the room. You're going to film the videos. We're going to do as much as possible to get you in motion, to get you implementing. And we're going to talk about some of those systems, specifically your cash forecast. This is going to be awesome. I mean, I get goosebumps every time I think about it. When Jen and I and Susie talk about it, we just go crazy over ourselves about the value that's provided. You know, we're going to have Dwayne, somebody who is in the back end. Susie mentioned the Dwayne factor of our campaigns. Dwayne is behind pretty much all of Jack Canfield's online launches and online business. And Jack Canfield, multi-million $1 million campaign and brand, and Dwayne has been behind it for years and years and years. So Dwayne has been responsible for literally millions and millions of dollars being sold. He knows the back end systems as far as strategy as well as technology inside and out. And to get Dwayne to work in your campaign would be at least 10K, although he's not actually even available. So if you had a $10,000 check and said, Dwayne, can you help me? He would say no, because he doesn't have the capacity to even help anybody right now. So Dwayne is literally untouchable. If you were to do a VIP day with me or Jen, there's $15,000 each. You know, you're not going to get us the entire time, each one of us individually, but we figured, you know, it's probably worth about 2 VIP days if we're in the room working on your business side by side for 5 days, as well as Susie. Susie's VIP days are $25,000 a pop, and people pay that all the time and walk away going, wow, I got a bargain, because of the value that she brings and what she's able to do. If you were to hire your own videographer for that amount of time and do some of the editing and the strategy behind it, it's easy $5,000, you know, for 5 days of implementation. I mean, that's where it's invaluable. It's not about the strategy, the information. It's about the implementation. That's where it's invaluable. The tools and the templates that we've talked about, I mean, those are easily responsible for generating over $5 million in new revenue with all of our brands and all of our experience and the things that we've all done combined. And, you know, it's tough to put a dollar amount on that. So, you know, we conservatively said $25,000 for those tools and templates. So, you know, we think it's a huge, tremendous value. We know it's a huge, tremendous value. It's easily over $200,000 in value. Obviously, that's not what you'll pay. We want to bring this small community of people together and in an intense but fun environment, create tremendous shifts and tremendous change and get you in motion. So the investment, if you are excited about this opportunity, if you know it's the right step for you, you can go to motivatingthemasses.com/launch. I want to tell you about the investment. The 5 days of intense launch strategy, the investment is $74.97 for 5 days of what's going to end up being easily over 40 hours worth of implementation to create seriously powerful strategy and get you in motion. And I mean, think about it. If you're selling a $1,000 product and we help get you in motion, if you make 8 sales, then this event has already paid for itself. Some of you might be selling a $2,000 product. Some of you might be selling a $200 product like I did. If you're selling a $200 product, then you're talking about, you know, 40 sales at that lower dollar amount easily covers the cost of this program. But here's what I get excited about. I don't just get excited about what you'll do in the room. What I get excited about is what you'll learn in the room, and not just about the results for launch 1. I get excited about your results for launch number 7. I get excited about what you're going to learn, and then what you'll learn to amplify the second one, and then the third one, and then the fourth one. You learn how to do it right first. And can you imagine what happens when that ripple starts to expand? That's what I get excited about. So we don't want you to show up with this one-shot mentality, like I'm going to do one launch. We want this to be the beginning of something magnificent for your future, for your brand, for your bank account, for your family, for your target clients. Now, anytime that you invest in something in full here at Motivating the Masses, we always like to give a discount. So there's a 10% discount for pay in full, which brings it less than $67.50 for a pay in full. If that doesn't work for you, you can make 3 payments. The 3 payments are just under $2,500, and that adds up to the $74.97 up top. Now, one of the things that's important is for you just to understand is that the event itself is happening relatively soon. And so these payments have been designed to where they come out every 21 days. We can't do every 30 days because then the event will already have come and gone by the time the third payment actually comes out. So just for you to understand the strategy behind the finances. And we tell you this stuff because we want you to be fiscally responsible in your own business as well. That's why we're so open with why we do the things that we do. So it's important that your clients are fully paid before you deliver an intense product like this one. And so we want you to take that mentality and concept into your own business as well. We're also going to do a pre-launch call as a bonus for all of you that register. We're going to go over everything you need to know so that you're absolutely ready for this launch. And this program, 5 days of rolling up the sleeves and getting after it with us, with the entire Motivating the Masses marketing team and several of the different components. And if they're not in the room, we're going to have access to them if we need them, is happening December 2nd through the 6th of 2015. So it's coming up relatively soon. If you're an action taker, you know this is the next step for you, then jump on board. Go to motivatingthemasses.com/launch. We can't wait to roll up our sleeves with you to help guide you with all the experience that we have from our background. I mean, we're talking about between 30 and 35 years. Actually, it's more than that, between 40 and 45 years of doing launches, of building businesses inside the personal development industry. And we want you to learn from our mistakes. We want to help you avoid some of the potholes that really took us out, cost us a ton of money, so that you don't have to do that. That truly is where our heart is. And if you've been in our community for any amount of time, you know, we hope that you feel that. And most of our clients tell us that they feel that. So we want to jump in with you, jump in the trenches, and really just take this to a whole new level. So Jen or Susie, if there's anything you want to add, anything that I missed here, then I'm going to open it up, you know, for you guys to say anything, and we'll just handle Q&A. If there's any Q&A right now on the webinar, we'll handle that. Otherwise, we'll handle most of the Q&A via email afterwards.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say, Sean, is that every time you and Jen speak on this, like, I'm great with the budget and the money and the, you know, that's easy for me, but all the other stuff, I'm still such a student learning from you. So I just want to say that to everyone that's there is we're always learning and we're always bringing new information and cutting edge information. Where both Lisa and I are students at both yours and Jen's feet, because this system has made it so clear about why we failed before. So I'm excited that we're launching it, but we're also launching it a hands-on, get it done while you're there. So it's not another idea, it's an implementation tool.
Yeah, and guys, this is Jen. So see, a lot of times the work behind the scenes, and many of you have stepped into this arena launching, you know, all kinds of things. I know a lot of people listening have already done some launches, and I also know a lot of you have been frustrated with the level of effort that may have come with that, because that's just what's real. I always say, this is one of my lines, you know, the hustle is real, but the struggle doesn't have to be. And so we put this together because we knew that while you're hustling, you want to make the rightest steps that you can make. And nothing's perfect, but the most right steps that you can take is when you hook up with a company who's overcommitted. We're overzealous. We're over obsessed with your success, and we want you to feel great doing what you do in the world. And so we knew very clearly we needed to bring what we've been testing for over 3 years. Motivating the Masses has always been a great brand, a big brand. Lisa has taken her story. Remember, I talked about the story, and Sean talked about the system of launching. But it was when we plugged in her story, got it super clear who our target market was, and then started attaching the right marketing systems to it, that we were able to create those additional revenue streams that we're really proud to say are true of our company. And so I want to ask you, if you want to go into the next 18 months of your business and know that you have a rock solid plan and that you sat and worked with us side by side. This is the first time we're doing it like this. Normally you would work with us individually or in pairs, and a lot of times that's the strategy, which is very important. Strategy is very important, but it doesn't mean nada if you're not implementing and learning and then implementing again and making some money and making some impact. And so we created this because we knew that this was so needed, that not a lot of people create these in-person intensives because frankly they're a lot of work for the teachers, right? Because we're busy also running a company. But we knew that seeing the breakthroughs of the people who actually implement and do the work, and we have many students in our company who have done this exact work that we're bringing to you for 5 days and have been able to create their own multiple six-figure launches and brands. And I'll tell you those people that are doing that in our community that are students of ours come back to us time and time again to do these types of workshops and VIP days with us. And so this is the first time ever, and this is why we're like overjoyed and over giddy with excitement to bring it to you, is because for the first time we're actually going to have you in the room for 5 days. You have us all to yourselves alongside 19 other businesses where we will do the work with you. You'll write copy. I will personally review it. Sean will walk you through the blueprint, set up the funnels. We'll have our CRM expert, Dwayne, on board to show you how to set up your funnels. Susie will show you how to build that revenue plan that you can turn to time and time again to adjust your launch goals to. This is huge, guys. And I know I'm super excited, but this isn't just a marketer speaking. This is a person who literally, as a student of Motivating the Masses 3 years ago, I saw an opportunity for them to pour into me, and that I saw my biggest opportunity to pour into them, which was my gift and my skill that the creator gave to me, right, to be able to build those additional revenue streams. And then with Sean coming on board, it's just been magic. So I just want to say, if you're on the fence or you've been wanting something like this, don't wait, because the next 18 months could look radically different. And 18 months from now, you're going to say, I wish I had done this workshop with Susie, Jen, and Sean. I wish I had done that and I hadn't waited 18 months for, like, let's say the next time. We don't know if we're going to do it again. We know that right now this is what people have been asking us to put together. So we're honoring that, and also we're excited to teach it. So, Sean, that's my biddy.
And that was a good biddy. Thank you so much, Jen, Susie. We appreciate all of you that are in attendance here. And if you do have any questions about the event itself, then you can type them into the chat box here inside your own control panel of the webinar. And if there's any questions that are about the event that are relevant to everybody, then we'll address those questions. And if not, then we can just address them one-on-one individually with you. And we do invite that. If you have any questions specifically, if you want to see if this event would be really good for your particular brand, then let us know. I mean, we're happy to sit down with you. And we want quality, right? We're happy to sit down with you and see if this really is a good fit. We are not about just talking people into an event if it's not a good fit. We walk our talk when it comes to finding the right target client avatar, seeker, whatever label you want to put on it. And that's how we come alive, by having the right people in front of us, not by just getting warm bodies like anybody, who can fog a mirror. Let's try to talk them into our event. That's how a lot of people operate, and that desperation doesn't serve them. So I don't have any questions that are relevant to the entire group. So what we'll do is just answer some of the individual questions one-on-one. And if you do have a question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in my email address. You can contact me specifically at Sean@motivatingthemasses.com. SEAN at motivatingthemasses.com. If you have any questions about this webinar, anything at all, just let me know, and we are here to serve you. So Jen, Susie, if there's not anything else you want to add, then it's so fun to co-create with the two of you, and I'm just getting so excited about this event. I can't wait to serve the people that are in the room. So with that, everyone, take care. Have a fantastic rest of your day or evening, and we'll talk to you real soon.